Good evening and welcome to another MTV Community Forum. I'm your host, Byron Campbell. Welcome wherever you are. And of course, our co-host, Chris Diali. Good evening, Chris.
Good evening, Brian and Byron, and good evening to our listeners and viewers. Welcome.
Chris, we have, viewers, we have an interesting program this evening for you. Let me tell you, we have with us our guests. First, our program is in two sections. Firstly, we have Livingston Nelson. He is, of course, the CEO of the Grenada Cultural Foundation. And we have with us also Ali Gill. He's a former Minister of Culture and he is an attorney at law. With them, we're going to be talking about the whole Jab issue that's been on the news lately. And the second segment of the program, we're going to have with us Jelani Glean. He's a caretaker NNP representative for the St. Patrick West constituency. So stay with us. We have an interesting program for you this evening. We'll be right back.
The Mass officially starts now as Spice Mass Cooperation together with Aura Caribbean is turning up the thing all the way up with Carnival City Fusion Thursdays. It all kicks off on Thursday, May 29th and continues every Thursday into June. We're bringing the vibes to the Port Louis lawn. Gates open 7 p.m. Action starts 8 p.m. Get ready for live performances from your favorite soca, groovy and calypso artists, plus the sweet sounds of steel band, live bands, and all the mass elements you love. Veko, Jab Jab, Shortney, Mokojumbi, Apache, and more. It's more than a line. It's a whole carnival experience. So grab your crew, bring the energy, and come let's celebrate where culture meets pure excitement. Carnival City Fusion Thursdays, Port Louis Lawn, beginning May 29th and continues every Thursday into June. Come, let's play a mass, cause the thing starts.
Laboratories, providing quality care and expertise. Fit for life and allied laboratories. See our in-house doctors and our pharmacies. Get expert care and quality tests. When it comes to your health, you deserve the best. Fit for life and allied laboratories. We're taking care of Grenada.
Welcome back, viewers, MTV Community Forum. And we have with us this evening, we have Mr. Livingston Nelson. He's the CEO of the Grenada Cultural Foundation. And we also have with us in studio Mr. Ali Gill. Of course, he's a former cultural minister and he's an attorney at law. Good evening, gentlemen, and welcome to MTV Community Forum. In recent days, in fact, last weekend, what we've seen is throughout the country, at least in several parts of the country, we've seen Jab, bands of Jab. They were disruptive. The police were on scene in some instances. It's alleged that no permission was given. It's also alleged that this was a response to a statement made by the Prime Minister on the matter. We've seen in the Gary era where Gary attempted to curtail, restrict, ban Jab, we saw protests, we saw more Jab. Is there any similarity, gentlemen, with what happened many decades ago with now? Are Jabs, or is our population feeling that there is some threat to their culture, to this important culture? We've promoted Grenada as 100,000 Jab. What are we seeing there? What is giving rise to this display? Ali, let me start with you.
Okay. We have a societal problem It is beyond the masquerade of jab jab, and it is beyond simply a response to what the Prime Minister would have said. If I was to recall properly, accurately, the Prime Minister would have said that jab jab is too early, and I believe he's right. I also believe that it is rather disruptive for bands of jab jab to be playing in the public space, in the public road, the main thoroughfares, where persons have to go about other people who are not playing jab. Go to do their supermarket shopping, go to the beach, take their kids to the movies, go to church, whatever business that they have to do. And on a Saturday, you know, jab playing and so on. This is not yet carnival. We're talking about, we're just going into June, this is May. And I believe that the Prime Minister would have commented on that issue before it swelled, so to speak. And I don't think, and I am not paid to defend the Prime Minister, but I don't think he did it with the made those remarks with the intention of curtailing the rights of jab jab. Now, what we promoted, if I were to correct you, we said Spice Mass, home of 100,000 jabs.
Spice Mass.
Yes. Spice Mass is the home, not Grenada.
Okay.
So Spice Mass as a carnival.
Yeah.
Of course, piggybacking on the fact that we have 100,000 population there or thereabouts. So Spice Mass is carnival.
Yeah.
And I think, and I believe I'm of the considered view, strongly so, that we have done more than sufficient. That any part of the world, any part of the Caribbean knows Grenada is now synonymous with jab jab. In other words, we don't have to do anything else than to continue to portray our jab masquerade. The world knows. When you talk about going to Trinidad, you talk about going to play mass. When you think about going to St. Lucia Carnival or Crop Over, you talk about playing mass. When you think about coming to Spice Mass, you come and play jab. So we have established globally that Grenada is the home of jab, is the epicenter of the jab masquerade. And that anybody, you travel through the region all the time, and people say that come Grenada play jab. So there is no threat, in my respectful view, of the jab masquerade. Jab is now established in 2025 more than any other time before. So there's no, in my respectful view, there's no threat of the jab masquerade. There is no attempt to curtail it. But at the same time, I believe we need to be conscientious. We need to be responsible. We need to appreciate that while we support the masquerade of jab and so on, when and where it is played is of concern. And it ought not to be just the Prime Minister and the government. It ought to be concerned. It's a national concern and so on for all of us. Yeah. And that's why I press it on the fact that it's a societal issue.
Let me go to Livingston. Are you there, Mr. Nelson?
I'm there. I'm there.
Hello?
Are you hearing me loud and clear?
Okay. Let me take your view on that. How do you? What's the foundation, cultural foundation view? But what's your personal view of what took place on the weekend? What is your reaction to it, sir?
So let me just say good night to all the listeners on all the various medium, and to Ali, and of course to you and the Ali. Pleasant good night. I think I want to pick up on my personal view where Ali left off. Basically, Grenada is the established home of jab, and because of that, we have several opportunities, but we also have challenges which we must face. How do we continue maintaining the magic? How do we continue maintaining the sanctity, as much as possible, the pureness, for want of a better word, of the jab? And so what happened over the weekend and what have been happening over a number of years, it sort of led to where a dilution of the magic of the jab. Nowhere else in this part of the world you have a masquerade similar to the jab. Of course, you have what I would refer to as black painted characters in places like Haiti, which you call Neg Marron, or in Cayenne, you also have these Lancet card, what you call Lancet card. Now these people are also painted, but Grenada has established itself as the home of the Jab Jab, and Jab Jab has a history, a past, where they showed a level of protest, a level of resistance against what I call dehumanization of our blackness. So Jab Jab wanted to establish our identity as a people, and I believe we are at this threshold where we have done that. Now, if we are doing that, or we're trying to portray the masquerade every weekend, we are diluting it, we are bastardizing it. So I believe it is important that we think about how do we continue preserving as much as possible the authenticity of what we call the Grenadian Jab Jab. For a matter of fact, if you look at clearly, there is a trend right now where music, or the Jab music, the real authentic Jab song is coming into question. Our calypsonians, our studio artists, they are creating songs now, and they are creating a song, and everybody's calling this song a Jab Jab song. We have to be careful of how we preserve that, because like Trinidad, with Trinidad as the pan, and the calypso, or Jamaica has the reggae, we have an ideal opportunity in Grenada to claim, to name, and to decide and to market to the world that this is something that people must come here to enjoy. People must come here to participate in. And so if we're doing it every week, and the music is not what it's supposed to be, or the costuming, where every weekend some people might be in the blue or in the brown, and then we do not take time in order to ensure that the theatrics of the Jab is maintained, we probably could lose it. So I am worried, and I'm worried about the every weekend having people on the street and parading and calling it Jab Jab. I'm worried very much about that.
Mr. Livingston, my question to you is very simple. From where you sit as head of the foundation and so on, this is a situation of Prime Minister had said that he's concerned about the security issues surrounding the constant playing of Jab so early in the year. This is June. Carnival is in August. As Ali Gill stated, it's a societal issue. Would we get from you as the head of the Cultural Foundation, legally and otherwise, that this is not permitted, this is not what we want? I hear you giving the cultural explanation of what Jab represents and where it could be diluted, but from a legalistic point of view, there is no permission given for this early playing of Jab. Would you support the police in dealing with situations where they move into major thoroughfares, like I saw them in Grandans this weekend? Major thoroughfare. What would be your position on that?
I would rather we take a different route instead of the heavy-handedness of the police. I would rather we work with the captains of the band, and I believe it is highly possible. I mean, you know that years ago the Jab used to come in town and in all the centers, and they would dirty the buildings. I mean, today you're not seeing much of that. You know that at one time there used to be, serpents and snakes in all the Jab bands. Today there is a lot less of that. And I believe those changes came through moral suasion, a discussion. So I believe that the general population is as interested in preserving and maintaining the Jab as much as we are. So I think now is the time for discussions. Now is the time to engage the captains. Now is the time to, for us, for people like Ali Gill and myself and others, to speak, not to threaten, not to jail, but to talk to our people and let them know that there is a greater price. There is something beyond, bigger than us, and we have something to preserve. We have something that is uniquely Grenadian that we all need to work to to secure and to protect. So the police, I don't know. I rather now at this stage that we could go a different route rather than force engaging the police.
And when the conversation and the consultation with the captain doesn't work, and you have people outside of bands that have captains that are drinking and doing excesses and spilling over, what is the role of the police?
I would not come to the conclusion that it would not work. I've given you 2 examples where we have seen major progress in the attitude, and I believe it is possible. For a matter of fact, a couple of years ago at the Emancipation Celebration at Grenville, CEDU engaged a JAB band and asked them to not to have tar, not to put on tar. And they willingly obliged. They played, and there was no tar on in that band. I don't know if the mindset is the same now, but I am saying I would rather give that a try. Give that a try before we come to the conclusion that it would not work.
I'm not saying not give it a try, you know. I'm saying when it probably doesn't work. Because some people around this time, they figure behavior in that way is a way to express themselves for all whatever issues they may have had with whoever they may have had. And this is their opportunity to do it. So I'm saying to you, are saying, look at captains, engage them, have consultations, have conversations. Some of these captains of the Jab band don't have people like that we see now playing. So my point is, my ask is, would you as head of the Cultural Foundation come out and say that this is not the way for us to behave this early in the season, especially when Carnival is 2 months away at least?
Well, maybe I was not clear at the beginning. So yes, I supported the statement by the Prime Minister. Yes, I believe it is too early. I believe right now the focus should be on getting your theatrics. I mean, you know, because Carnival is really a street theater, and you need to get a few things in place. You know, sometimes we have to practice for the street theater, but do you practice cricket with putting on your full white suit? Do you practice cricket with you know, with a brand new cricket ball? I don't think so. So I believe there is room for the bands and them to get the act together for that major day. But I would caution, I would advise on the use of the tar or the oil at this stage, at this time. So is me now my clarion call from the Cultural Foundation, clarion call for the population, the general populace, those that are having the activities to cease and desist. If you have to play it in a location that does not infringe on other person's personal space, because now is not the time. But also be mindful that now is not the time to put on the tar. Now is not the time to put on the oil, because you're actually diluting the magic, the effect of the jab itself. You know, the Shatney clothes, the Shatney had a history, a tradition. You only see the new costume on the very morning, Monday morning. They will hide and go in all kind of, corners to ensure that the next band or other people do not see the costume. And they only unveil that. And this is the beauty of masquerade, the masquerader. When you put on that tie, you are basically a masquerader. And then what you are saying is that you have turned yourself into a different object, a different character. And you don't want to be masquerading for 2 months or 3 months prior to the festival day. So my clarion call. So I'm joining and saying it is too early. And it doesn't add to our uniqueness. It doesn't add to the quality of what we want to portray on Carnival Day by being seen from late May or in June. I mean, having the tar on you. Of course, I could understand a festival or a video recording. Those guys had Jab Fest or something like that. I can see the police giving them a special space to do that, and that is fine. But just on the every week, some guys or some people find they should put themselves in tar. I don't believe it is the best way for we to go as a people.
Thank you. Ali, you have articulated solutions on this. Speaking to some who took part, they are adamant to be back on the street again this weekend, some of them. What's the solution? How do you actualize? We've heard Livingston give an idea of how to solve it, but you've spoken about this. How do we go about reaching a solution, understanding among the parties? Because as you have said before, the law or the police is not the solution in this, strictly speaking.
And the difficulty that, and Livingston spoke about speaking to Jab captains.
Yeah.
I am of the respectful view that these are not organized bands of Jab where you're captain. So I'm absolutely clear on that. The Lafayette band, the Slam band, and so on. These are
Some
not
of
the
it is
bands.
spontaneous.
It's
too.
spontaneous.
Yeah.
That's the point. So you have to speak to the persons.
Yeah.
But we need consistent conversation across the board. Now, one of the things is that I recall during the COVID, when we had no carnival and so on, and some bands, St. Andrews, they went to Pearls and they diverted to the river when the police came. It was a national fiasco, basically. And there was some political backlash from the government at the time that was trying to enforce the law and the COVID protocols and all that. And some of us remained quiet. We never added our voice in support of the government at the time. You see, so that now that we have this, and that's why I said societal, now that it is reoccurring, how many of us is willing to speak up and speak out and say, listen, this is too early? You know, Jab has always practiced, you know. I grew up in small communities and so on. But the Jab bands used to practice their songs and their drums without the oil and painting close to carnival and so on. And I agree with Livingston that this early masquerade really and truly dilutes from the spectacle of Jab and persons coming to play Jab and so on. How do we resolve the issue? One, I believe we need consistent conversation across the board. Across the political divide, people must add their voices to these things. Across the social groups as well, and individuals in the community and so on. We must have a national effort to say, hey, let us stop it. The shopkeepers and so on and so forth is a national effort to get this done. It's not a political issue or a governmental issue, it's a societal issue. It takes a society now to solve it. And there is room for the law, there must be room for the law, because otherwise we become lawless. And the society can be lawless. So that the police have the role to ensure law and order. You don't want confrontation, of course, but naturally, if you're going to pay Jab Saturday on Grannan's main road, arguably the business road, the road from the airport, the businesses are there, people are doing their shopping, people are going to the beach, whatever it is and so on, then there must be, vehicles must be able to move seamlessly. The traffic regulations must be upheld, basically, because at the end of the day, I mean, it's a society we have, you know, so those things, so there must be space for the police to enforce laws and so on, but there must be a national appeal, a national campaign, not just of the Prime Minister, the government and so on. I want to hear the opposition leader and the opposition parliamentarian speaking too. I want to hear other cultural enthusiasts adding their voice, because let us be absolutely clear, nobody fighting down Jab. Nobody curtailing Jab and so on. It's not a fight against Jab, it's a fight against foolishness. And, you know, years ago, men played a little Jab and so on and so forth. They'll go by a river where nobody can see them and so on, under a tree, and cook oil and so on, and one or two guys will get. You can't be doing it in the public space and so on like that. That is what we're speaking about. And I believe that it will take a national effort with all of our voices, not some. So that no, all of our voices and say, hey, that is not right. You know what I mean? It hurts the culture, but it also hurts our society and so on and so forth. And there is a season and a reason for it. We can't be playing Jab in May and June.
Yeah, there's a season.
You know, no, we can't be doing that.
Livingston, we were just about to close. Your final comments on this issue before we go. Thank you.
Well, let me just say, well, first, thank you for the opportunity, but the conversation about not just Jab, but our traditional masqueraders is very much due. But in particular with the Jab, let me just say, I mentioned earlier on about our music. What really constitutes the authentic Jab song And before we have fusion of other music, before all the other artists on them putting all the release, there must be a conversation as to what is the real jab music that we are going to have and celebrate as a Grenadian tenet. Also, in terms of the theatrics that was accompanied the original Yale, there is a name that was called Before the Jab. What can we think about? What can we do more on the street? Because it's a theater, it's a show. What can we do more in order to entertain the people, to showcase that this art form is alive and thriving in Grenada? What can we do more to ensure that more of the players are using drums, real drums again? In the last 2 years, I've seen an increase in drummers and guys playing with the drum. Hopefully, we could get more of that. But I am calling for us to, again, when jab is played, for guys to dress up in the costume, meaning fully dressed, and come out with a full portrayal. That is the kind of conversation I would want us to have in terms of ways of how we preserve and maintain, but make sure that we claim, further claim the jab.
What it means, Livingston, is that you have work to do. You're in the right place.
Thank you, Livingston. And we'll have to come back to that. Ali, please close a comment on this.
I don't want Livingston to get away.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because I believe where he's at now is in the right place, not just to have the conversation, but to do the work. So
get on the ground.
Get on the ground to do the work. So that I think that'll be the right place to part.
Right.
By urging Livingston to get that work and to do the work at the foundation.
Just 5 seconds.
Yeah.
We have formed a group called Timba, Traditional Individual Mass Band Association, the Cultural Foundation. And some of the information I am putting out right now in terms of not playing with tar before and all that, we've been feeding our players that throughout the year about the shortening, the jab, the vehicle, etc. So, Ali, the work has started. You wouldn't see the full result yet, but we have started.
That's good to
That's
know.
commendable. But Baron, let me, enough on the jab. I think we have said quite a lot of it. But just let me use this opportunity in closing the call on the government to fully implement online landing forms at the international airport. The Grenada is probably the only island in the Caribbean where I have to write 2-page when I land now. We have machines at the airport, so you come in, we have a hybrid, manual and digital. So I can still put my passport in
on
the
machine,
scanner, but I still have to fill out for my phone number and so on. It has become more complicated. It is hassle, and the other Caribbean islands have gone and left us.
So we're behind.
Way behind. And to add insult to injury, we have a government that says it is transformational, and we have young people in government. So I am not, we need to get this and get it
It's
done.
an ease of travel.
It's an ease of travel. Yeah. And all the other islands, before you board the plane, you fill out your landing form online, and you have your scanner on your phone.
It's not reinventing the wheel.
And it's not, we have the technology.
All the authorities are listening, the technology
we have
is
the
there.
technology. I just, thought to myself that, listen, I need to speak out about this. So somebody need to say something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And because it is not acceptable that all the other islands basically.
It's a hindrance to travel. It's a hassle.
But we have the technology, and we say we're transforming.
Yeah.
So let us get the job done. So
thank you very much. That's all the
pleasure,
time we have.
and
Thank you.
I will listen.
Viewers, you stay with us. As we said, we're coming back. We have with us the Jalini Clean. Jalini Clean. He's the caretaker NNP representative for St. Patrick West. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Laboratories, providing quality care and expertise. Fit for life and allied laboratories. See our in-house doctors and our pharmacies. Get expert care and quality tests. When it comes to your health, you deserve the best. Fit for life and allied laboratories. We're taking care of Grenada.
Ladies and gentlemen, Sunday, June 8, 2025 at Ariza Car Park. Get ready for Unbothered Brunch. Unbothered Brunch, the throwback edition where nostalgia meets elegance. This isn't just any brunch. It's the brunch of brunches. Get ready to relive the golden days. Immerse yourself in timeless hits and experience a vibe so smooth, so unforgettable. It'll have you reminiscent in style. Featuring live from Trinidad and Tobago, the incomparable Ding Dong. Viking Ding Dong. And from Grenada, the soca champion, Blacker Dan.
See my ex with a new man. The day you up and leave us a blessing. A blessing.
Along with Rita and the Ultimate Perfection Band. Brace yourselves for an iconic food-inclusive affair. Unbothered, the brunch. Secure your tickets now at all available ticket outlets and online at gotofed.com. Early bird tickets are $200. General admission $250. Cabanas are $2,500 for the ultimate brunch indulgence. Unbothered time 4 p.m. to midnight. Don't just hear about it, be there. Sunday, June 8th. Unbothered, unforgettable, unmatched.
The Mass officially starts now as Spice Mass Corporation together with Aura Caribbean is turning up the thing all the way up with Carnival City Fusion Thursdays. It all kicks off on Thursday, May 29th and continues every Thursday into June. We're bringing the vibes to the Port Louis lawn. Gates open 7 p.m. Action starts 8 p.m. Get ready for live performances from your favorite soca, groovy and calypso artists, plus the sweet sounds of steel band, live bands, and all the mass elements you love. Veko, Jab Jab, Shortney, Mokojumbi, Apache, and more. It's more than a line. It's a whole carnival experience. So grab your crew, bring the energy, and come let's celebrate where culture meets pure excitement. Carnival City Fusion Thursdays, Port Louis Lawn, beginning May 29th and continues every Thursday into June. Come, let's play a mass, cause the thing start.
Welcome back to Community Forum. As we indicated earlier, we are going to be doing segments between now and the rest of the month, trying to get to learn and understand the caretakers that NNP have recently appointed for various constituencies. This evening we have with us Mr. Jelani Green, who is the representative for St. Patrick's West, the caretaker. Let me be clear because you're not a representative yet. The caretaker for St. Patrick's West, which is Honorable Anders' constituency. So Mr. Green has a degree in marketing, graduated top of his class, cum laude, and have worked in various areas in marketing. He has been a teacher for many years in secondary school. So he comes with an understanding of how to, I would say, promote and market himself, because if he had to do nothing else, he had to do that. So Mr. Green, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
It's good to have you here. I'm going to start the batting. So my first question to you is, you are from St. Patrick's West in particular. You have been a person living in that constituency. What exactly, and before I go there, congratulations on becoming the caretaker as a young person.
Thank
I
you.
think we appreciate young people coming forward now and offering themselves. And that is something good, because we had to transition from some of the guys that were there, not necessarily in your party alone, but generally. So congratulations. And the first question is, what is it that you bring into the table as a young politician or vying politician that will make you different from what we knew in the past?
Thank you again for having me and for being part of the show. Let me say good night to you, of course, and your co-host, Mr. Campbell, and the rest of the viewers who are viewing directly on MTV or online. For me, this is an opportunity to serve. And quite often we find that politicians get into politics with a view of serving, but somewhere along the line, they tend to sometimes serve themselves a little bit more than they serve the people that they represent. For me, since I was a teenager, I've had the passion to serve within my community. I've always wanted to make a difference in my community. I've always wanted to take care of my elderly. I always wanted to see other young persons succeed. And from that age, growing up, having the opportunity to serve more and more, I think that has really motivated me to want to continue to serve. And I've been driven to serve now at the highest possible level within our country. I think it's an honor to do so. And my commitment is to provide service to our people, service that helps improve, change lives, and deliver on a future that we all can be proud of and that we all agree on. That is the direction we want to go as a people.
Your usefulness, of course, and how the young people now interact with party and the politics comes from a background of where we had jump and wine stage, big outgoings and big rallies. Now it would appear that our young people are more inclined to be on social media platforms and get information via that mode and mechanism. So my question to you is, what do you believe will be the influencers in social media to bring votes to your side versus the incumbent party, who will have an advantage because they can do physical things in the constituency that you cannot?
Influencers, as we know in marketing, are quite, well, that the word says it all. They influence and guide opinions. They suggest and have followings that they suggest their opinions to, and they can lead in lots of ways. However, what I've found to be most impactful for me so far in my limited time as caretaker is that the one-on-one, the personal contact, the 1v1, that seems to be most impactful. Persons tend to respond better when they see you present. And there's a difference between being present and having presence. And you need to have presence when you enter people's homes, when you enter their lives, when you want to share your vision, when you want to share in their pain and to help them find solutions to what has been guiding them. Now, for us in the New National Party, of course, we have influencers all around. A lot of our young persons are guided by influencers on social media, but they're also guided by their parents in the home. They're also guided by their guardians. They're guided by, the bigger brother. They're guided by the employed persons in a lot of cases now. We've seen one of the trends in recent time has been, whereas in the past it used to be the parents influencing the home and guiding the children, now you find that a lot of parents are unemployed. And it's the children are the ones who gain some level of form of employment, have now become the breadwinners of the home. And they now are the ones guiding some of these decisions. So in terms of influence now, it's not the same as before. It is getting to understand the issues that young breadwinner now faces, as it's different from the traditional breadwinner and decision maker in the home. So that's why I think the one-on-one, going to visit, understanding the unique perspectives from home to home, that has been most impactful, and I think that doesn't change in politics.
I would assume, and you could guide me here, 'cause I'm not sure, the demographics for your constituency in terms of the age, is it 50-50 with young people, or is it a different percentage as it relates to the more mature people in the constituency? And the other part of this question is, I hear the one-on-one, which I think has value because people get to know you, who you are, face to face, to get to know a face. So when they call the name Jelani Green, they know who that is. But your last politics in NNP would have indicated from the figures that NDC's social media platforms and messaging was far more effective than the one-on-one visits. So how are you going to balance that?
There's room for both. The social media messaging allows you to reach large audiences at any point in time. We've also seen a lot of influencing coming from the diaspora. Therefore, and those are persons who send remittances home and so on, so they do have influence, and we have to value that. Someone refers to them as the 16th constituency. But what I would say is that the NNDC's media plan, social media plan, last election was clearly stronger than ours. The messaging that came across these media seemed to have hit home much better than the messaging that we brought across as the New National Party. And sometimes we have to face the reality, face the facts as to what they are. We have influencers just like they do, but the messaging via the media is also important. And I think last election, considering the voters who turned out to vote, I think the messaging really hit home better. And if I could elaborate a little bit more, but what I mean by this is, if you look, for example, at the demographics, you would see that it's more or less split across the board. It's probably 30% young, it's 30% old, and the bulk of it is in the middle-age group, is in the working man's group.
What we used to call the middle class.
That we used to usually call the middle class, right? And the major part of these all have been females. You look at the voter, it's almost 69% female in the voter turnout.
Okay.
Now, what do females between 18 to 55 have in common? Well, this seems to suggest to me these are our young females who are getting into programs looking for job security, persons who are probably in the Imani program, contract workers in public service, young police officers, young teachers, so on and so forth. The middle-aged ones are persons who've been in the service a while, looking to maybe purchase land, get their homes, looking to secure themselves financially. And then we have those 40 upwards looking towards retirement, and therefore the pension became a significant issue. To this day, I do believe that many persons still do not understand the pension issue clearly. I don't think we did a very good job, or we could have done a better job at explaining this issue very clearly. But that seemed to have hit home and resonated. And if you look at the NDC's campaign last election, it's surrounded around those elements.
So my last question to you for the time being is this, before I bring in my co-host Byron here. Understanding the demographics as you have just explained, would you be willing at any time to engage in a debate with your opposition MP or opposition person in the constituency to outline and give the average person an understanding of the strategies that your party will be willing to engage, you in particular for your constituency, to improve the life and improve conditions?
For me personally, that's never been an issue. It's not a challenge. I think it's a responsible thing to do. I've always admired the US's form of debate, especially presidential debates. It really gives voters an opportunity to get in depth and to really view a lot of the issues, particularly in our case, because our electoral system is a bit different. I think on a constituency level, it really gives our constituents an opportunity to really understand.
And to get to know you.
And to get to know us better and to where we sit behind certain issues.
Right.
So I would welcome this, but of course I must fall in line with the policy of our party. And we have a leader and we have leadership within our party.
We have asked your leader that already, and she has indicated she'll be happy to engage.
I'll be happy to join her.
So we will ask all of the candidates, all of the constituency people that is going to come on the program in the next few weeks, the same question. Caretakers.
Lanny, as we said, as Chris indicated, we want to get a sense of your values and your plans for development, not just your constituency, but the country. But let me start with the values. Well, what experiences of people have shaped who you are today?
That's a very good question. I think it starts with my mom. My mom has had a lot of influence. She's deceased now. She's had a lot of influence and impact on my life, particularly, I would say, getting me involved in politics at a very young age, even if I didn't know, I was not aware. That is what I was getting involved with. She's been a political activist. I remember as a young child, probably 6 years old, very young in the revolution. She was there. I remember her getting arrested during that period. It was a rough time. I still remember that. I also remember her, taking us out to rallies and so forth. And my first trip to Carriacou was with my mom to visit a NNP rally in Carriacou. So I've grown into this, not understanding what it was in its entirety, but I've seen how the party has been able to help people, to galvanize people, to motivate people, and the impact we've had on Grenada and its development. So I would say that she's been my first influence. I've had persons in my community. I'm from the village of Chantimel. I'm very proud of that. And in my community, they've always been strong leaders, elderly gentlemen who, like Mr. Hennessy, for example, who is the father of Scholar, by the way, celebrating his 89th birthday today, so happy birthday to him. So persons like him, who's been elder statesmen in my community, have really shaped me in terms of leadership and compassion and understanding and being mature about how we handle conflicts and that type of thing. And as I moved into school, my dad was the vice principal at my school in my home, so of course there's his impact and influence as well. And I think moving on to my working space, I've had the experience of working with many managers across a number of enterprises, and I would say this. Most managers that I've worked with, I'm talking general managers and CEOs and so forth, I've always learned early in my career what I didn't want to do. As a leader, when I get to that place, what I didn't want to do, what I didn't want to be like, until I ran into a gentleman by the name of Mr. James Pitt. And he was the first gentleman, my first manager that I aspired to want to lead like. I thought he was a great leader. I thought he handled conflicts, pressured situations, situations that were very delicate for his company in a manner that was really professional, that showed leadership. And I aspired, to be more like him and to learn from him. And I learned a lot from him. And I do give him credit for that and shaping me as the type of leader that I am today.
What is your vision for the development of your constituency, St. Patrick's West?
For me, St. Patrick's West, and St. Patrick as a whole, to be quite honest, we've been left behind. As the country continues to develop, we see less and less being invested into St. Patrick. We see the rural economy in shambles. We pay, outside of Carriacou and Petit Martinique, we pay the most for goods and services. We cannot afford to purchase the goods and services that we produce locally through agriculture because it's just too expensive for our people. We see our brightest set of persons migrating, our educated people, our skilled labor migrating from St. Patrick, moving towards St. George's because that's where their job opportunities are. Leaving us with the unskilled and then expecting them to now start small businesses and enterprise and so forth, which hasn't been successful. We don't have the circulation in the economy in the north to sustain livelihoods and so forth. So we recognize that St. Patrick's statistically is now one of the poorest parishes in the entire country. And we need to turn that around. We need that to change.
So give us two things, based on what you have said there, that you will do to change that metrics in St. Patrick's West. So let's take entrepreneurship and small business.
Yes. So entrepreneurship and small business, I believe we have to look for where we can have niche opportunities first, for example. We've long spoken about port project, marina project at Suches Bay, that breakwater project. There's twofold to this. There's one part of protecting the northern coastline from sea degradation and so forth. And there's also the opportunity here for us to have a port which opens a brand new market to us in terms of Carriacou and Petit Martinique. We have our farmers at the north which can afford us the opportunity to have fruits, vegetables on a daily, go into Carriacou and Petit Martinique and trade, other trade in that possibility.
At a reduced cost.
At a reduced cost, right? Also, that marina project is also going to not just create opportunities in construction for construction workers, but here we're also talking about when the yachts come. We're talking about sail repair, small engine motor repair, AC and refrigeration. Maybe there's some opportunity here for hospitality in terms of persons cleaning the vessels and doing shopping and so forth.
So let me ask you another thing to address. That is good to get all of these businesses and opportunities, but where are you getting the labor from? Because labor is a crisis in this country, whether it is in agriculture, construction, tourism, wherever.
Right. So that's a wonderful question, and I love it. No, what we've been lacking a lot of times here, and it's not just unique to St. Patrick, is that whilst we invest in a lot of these major projects, we do not simultaneously prepare our people for the opportunities. So we quite often find that when the opportunity comes, our persons are not prepared, like you're saying, we don't have the labor. Well, if we're going to do a mega multi-million, multi-billion-dollar project, I don't think from the time this project begins, the thought comes to fruition, the studies are done for the environment and so forth. I think you have enough time to also put in place the structures that say, hey, we're going to need 20 masons, 30 carpenters, bricklayers, whatever it is.
What if we don't have them? Are you prepared to bring them in from external
We have
countries?
CC. We can train. I prefer to use what we have here, what we have available.
But we have a work ethic problem.
Mm-hmm.
We have a work ethic problem with our nation and our workers.
Mm-hmm.
Men come to work in whatever construction or wherever, and they don't give you 6.5 hours or 7 hours work.
Well, that's a
And that is
mindset
a work.
issue.
Yes, it's a work ethic issue,
Mhm.
and I'm trying to get from you, how would you address that at your parish level? Because it's not just Grenada; it starts at the parish level. You see more men on the block linemen
Mhm.
than women.
I agree.
Women going out now and being masons and carpenters, and our men just sit down linemen.
Exactly. So this problem, it cannot be solved by just importing. Maybe in the short term, because you have the need now, we can look to import some labor. But I believe that if the issue is a mindset issue and it's an attitudinal issue, it means it's learned behavior and it's being learned somewhere along the line. So it means that our education system, our home family values type situation, it's not serving our young persons that are coming through the system. So we need to fix it there so that then when they come out of the system, that they are prepared, they have the mindset, they have the attitude, and they have the open-mindedness to learn new skills, to learn where the opportunities are, to be flexible so that they can take advantage of what these possibilities are.
What are you bringing to the political table that hasn't been there before? What do you think? Why do you think it makes a difference? You make a difference from other politicians.
I don't make promises that I can't keep. I started it right there.
What does development mean to you in a Grenadian context, in any context, certainly for us?
Development for me means getting to the point where we are sustainable as a people, where we can truly live out the meaning of what it truly means to be independent. This means having our own judicial system. It means being able to protect our citizens. It means being able to feed our citizens.
Mm-hmm.
And out of the surplus of what we do, we can export and we can grow and create other opportunities. One of the things that have baffled me for many years is that to this day, Grenada being such a small island, we don't have a policy that looks at our land use, for example, and says, out of our small island, these are the areas that are we going to use to protect the environment, sustain our forestry and our natural habitats and so on. These are the areas that we are marking for commercial development. These are the areas we are marking for low income, middle income, upper income development. These are the areas that we are going to, again, protect coastal and whatever.
One was done.
And farm.
Where it taking dust.
It's taking dust, right?
Because we do have the political will.
Right, and one for agriculture.
Yeah.
So we speak so much of agriculture, and agriculture being the backbone of the economy and all of that. But yet for all, we still do not know what is the agricultural space that we have and what is the maximum capacity of that space. And therefore, how do we prioritize the use of that space to ensure that first and foremost, before we think of export, first and foremost, that we are producing enough to feed our own people and that the prices we can feed them at is one that they can afford.
Food security.
Food security is our issue.
Another issue, of course, we have climate change. And the question I have is, how do you plan to balance economic growth with environmental sustainability? We've had the issue in Sates, for example, a few years ago, a major environmental issue occurring in that bay. What's your plans for balancing those factors?
Well, you can't have one without the other. And I would have loved to see an ESIA being completed before that project. But the urgency, Mother Nature doesn't often come with fair warning.
Yeah.
And I understand the urgency of that situation at that point in time. We had waves being crashed on the businesses in the lower town. If we were to wait to complete that, then by the time the ESIA would have been completed, the sea would have probably been on the other side of the road going its way and would have had a lot more destruction. So urgent action needed to take place. But the understanding of that project was that this was incomplete. This was just a phase and took buy us enough time to complete the ESI and then look at what would be the most sustainable path to complete that project. And that hasn't been continued. We've heard a lot of promises and a lot of talk around it. But again, the ultimate goal for a project for that area would have been a port and a marina. And you have to take into consideration what that impact that is going to have on the environment and the people who live there.
And as you talk about Satés, many persons consider Satés a sleepy town. Any ideas for its economic growth, its development, employment creation? And related to that, you could combine those questions, the whole question of agriculture and your rural economy. What are the big ideas you have, or your ideas generally, to deal with this issue?
So, Satés, people have this is what Satés has become. It never was what Satés has always been. Outside of St. George's at one point in time, Satés was our second largest. We had vehicle dealerships, shoe stores. We had all of that available at Satés. But one thing we didn't have was a port. And then we had the opening of the port at Grenville. And so we looked at the tongue of Grenville grow over time because trade was now available at Grenville with Carriacou and so on and Trinidad. And you didn't have that trade coming in at Satés anymore. So then we didn't have the growth that we anticipated. That's why the port is so important at Satés. And the marina is at another opportunity because what that's going to do is it's going to create further opportunities, for example, in our tourism product. We are the historical parishes of the country, and we do not have one developed historical site. And we have so many that we are proud of that we can name, Safe Bed and Caribs Leap and a numerous number of them. And even in agriculture, I think we could also add to the tourism product from an agricultural perspective. We can now look at farms where persons can visit, tourists and so on, to get a unique experience. One in local fruits, one in flowers, one in herbal medicines and so on and so forth, to create that unique type of northern experience that is not available in the south at all.
I am coming to the north to rest for Carnival, so I appreciate the north for its, laid back and tranquility. That is the right word. To come and rest and chat with people and visit and so on. I think I get to know the craziness of Carnival in this city and
actually growing up north.
So I think I hear you talk, there is room for that kind of development, even within country and from outside country. But the port project, and I hear you stressing a lot on the port project. The port project have been spoken about many years ago and in the last government. There were issues with wave and wave action and how to calm that and environmental impact assessments that probably suggested at the time is something that need to be relooked. Is it something that you and the party will take on? Because we have a similar issue with the Carenage, and the Carenage falling apart. And we had to do urgent action there. So the question to you is, how do you plan to approach that and sell that to your constituents as well as your party?
Well, I plan to champion this very heavily because, as I said, rural development and having something that's going to spark and ignite the economy, the rural economy, is very important. And as you can see, this project not only touches what it brings to the table directly, but it spills off into agriculture, it spills off into tourism. There are so many opportunities that we can create there. And we have the secondary schools, we have the tertiary schools that we have. There's at MCC at Satés that we can have the training and so on that is going to go along hand in hand with this to prepare our persons for the opportunities. So I think that sells itself. As an opportunity. What we have to do again is touch base with our constituents, touch base with our students, touch base with our schools, and say, hey, this is what it is. For example, if we want buying into things, if they waive action or there are some environmental concerns, why isn't our science fair, our school science fair, looking at those issues? Why aren't we being educated in a way that the purpose of our education is to solve our local problems? Not to be the next Bill Gates or to be the next who, but to solve our local problems. And in so doing, your ingenuity may come out and we may have some technology that you can sell outside of it.
So you have plenty more town halls to do.
Well, where do you see Grenada in 10 years? And what role do you hope to play in that future, Delany?
In 10 years, I'm hoping that we move a lot closer to being the sovereign state that we are, and that we can find our identity. I think over this last economic period where we've prioritized our economic growth, a lot of our citizenry have lost that patriotism and have leaned a lot towards self-development, self-growth, and it's come at a cost of being selfish in many ways. And we've gotten away from community development. We've gotten away from community togetherness. So we think of self before we think of community. And we often know that there's a saying here that it takes a community to raise a child. So we've seen that a lot of change in our values and so forth. That really.
And your role in
bangs up.
this, your role in this.
Leadership. Leadership is what is important. Here, we need to create the avenue, whether it be through our education system, whether it be through community activities and support in terms of that, whether it be in terms of the pillars, for example, that we've all agreed to. I think both parties would have agreed to it at this point in time because it's the same vision. We need to, for example, in St. Patrick, if we're looking at a vision, it must fall in line. We may have great ideas, but it must fall in line with those pillars because that's what we agreed at Vision 75 is going to look like. So we must understand that investment opportunities are going to come along those pillars. But at the same token, if the needs of the people dictate that there be new pillars or that some pillars change, we must also be open-minded as a government to accept that and make the necessary changes so that we solve the needs of our people.
What's your message to the people of St. Patrick West tonight?
Before you go there, as a leader,
Go
are
ahead.
you prepared to roll up your sleeves and get on the court
Yeah.
with the constituents?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I've done this all my life. It's not being
Yeah.
prepared to do it anymore. I've been there. I've been in the trenches with our young
Yeah.
people, whether it be through coaching, sports, after-school programs, Empower programs, GYEI programs, Project Reach at the prison. All of these, I've been in there with them, and that's why I understand how much is riding on this. And meeting a lot of our constituents on a personal one-on-one, I understand how much they need the changes that we're speaking
But you know, let us assume that NNP wins the election and you become, you win your constituency and you become a minister. You know, most of us who become ministers find it difficult to balance our job in a ministerial complex versus meeting with the constituencies on the court, as I like to put it, and rolling up your sleeves and getting down in the trenches with them.
Yeah.
Have you thought about that?
Absolutely. And I'm a firm believer that leadership is not just about leading people or getting people to follow. It's also about empowering people to lead themselves. And I believe that we have the minds, I believe that we have the education, and we have the personnel that can lead us along that direction.
Of course, and it's an important question. Why the NNP? What does the party represent for you?
NNP is a party that has vision. The Vision 75 says that. It's a party that when I look back, each tenure in office, I can point to, I can show, I can see what we've done. We may not have been perfect. There may have been other areas where we should have adapted better. There should have been other areas we should have given a little bit more focus and attention. But we can still point to, at every era of NNP in government, something that has been done or accomplished. And that goes from sports to infrastructure, all across, all across the board. I see NNP as a party that delivers, not just a party that speaks, but and leaves empty words and fails to put the priority of its people ahead. I see NNP as a party that delivers. It's a party that has always had strong leadership, and I believe that having strong leadership is important for a nation because it sets the tone at which all of us will follow, that will pull all of us together to get behind a vision that we all share.
And finally, your message for your constituency tonight.
My message for my constituency tonight is that I am here, I've been with you, I continue to walk with you, I want to walk along with you in the future. I believe that St. Patrick's West has what it takes to grow, to develop, to thrive, and I don't believe that we necessarily have to look to the south or to look to a political party to create a vision for us. We're quite capable of creating our own vision. We're quite capable of using our human resource to solve our problems. We have to stop waiting for someone to do it for us. We are here. Now let's get together, let's walk along with each other, and we can accomplish a better St. Patrick West for each and every citizen.
We thank you very much for coming here. Appreciate your presence here.
Thank
Wish you well.
We wish you well.
Thank you.
Shanti Mailman, go for it.
Thank you so much.
Viewers, that's all the time we have. We're clearly out of time. I just want to say briefly, though, that, Chris, that Palestinian film will be shown at the Trade Center on Friday at 5 p.m. and at SAS in St. Andrews on Saturday at 5 p.m. That's all the time we have. Have a good night, good evening. Bye-bye.
Good evening.